So we're now back to our user interface.dwg file for this particular chapter. Obviously in the previous video we created that separate drawing. You don't need that one, you go back to the user interface.dwg file for this particular video in the chapter. So we're using the user interface.dwg file. We're not actually going to do any drawing. What we're going to look at is the drafting settings dialog box and one of the neat new features in AutoCAD 2018. And that is the fact that the drafting settings dialog box can be resized when you're using drafting settings in AutoCAD. So your drafting settings are all down at the bottom right of the screen there. So what we'll do, I'm going to go down to something like my object snaps there, right click and go to object snap settings on the little menu that pops up. And there's my drafting settings dialog box. Now I can resize this, as you can see, quite happily. So I can resize it, I can drag it diagonally, make it bigger, make it smaller. Obviously you cannot make it really small because you then lose the content of the dialog box. That's the smallest size it will go. So if I drag it over here, let's say, hover over the corner like that and get the diagonal arrow and drag, I can make it that big if I want to. Now, obviously, I've kind of covered up everything there and I can't see really what's going on behind the dialog box itself. The benefit here is if you're running a twin screen environment. You can have your drafting settings dialog box pop up on one of those in the dual screen environment, and it can be as big as you want it to be. So what I can do there is I can then resize it again if I want to, get the diagonal arrows on the corner there and drag it, and that's as small as it gets like that. So it's entirely up to you how big you want your drafting settings dialog box. But as I said, the benefit is if you're using a dual screen environment, which I'm obviously not, but the idea being is AutoCAD is being developed all the time by Autodesk to accommodate all of these working environment settings that we have, like the double screen setup that a lot of people use when they're using AutoCAD.